feels really anticlimactic, doesn't it? Yes. It's annoying, isn't it? Yes. We should probably see him actually smash some things, right? Is that what you want to see? Well, I have a video of a few of these items being actually destroyed with a sledgehammer, and I'll play it as long as you promise that every time he actually smashes something, you cheer as loud as you can, okay? Because it's satisfying to watch this, all right? Here we go. We're gonna count down from 3. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Roll the video. Who said shoosh? That's funny. I know. So y'all know by now that I love WandaVision. I talk about the show every time I'm here. It's so good, right? It's so good. I love Wanda, strongest Avenger. We all know it. Come on. But I was thinking about this series and how we're talking about stress. We're talking about pressure. And there's this scene in WandaVision that I remember watching, and I thought, oh, I know how she's feeling. I've reacted that way to stress before. You see, Wanda, if you haven't watched it, 1, what are you doing with your life? 2, quick synopsis. She created this alternate reality for herself. And so she has control over everything in this reality, and she's quickly losing control over things, and she doesn't know why. So that's a stressful situation for Wanda. And I just watch how she handles her stress in this scene. Check this out.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
So show of hands, who in here, when you're dealing with stress, you handle it like that? Denial and forced optimism. I'm fine. It's like that episode of Friends, have you seen it, where Ross is like, I'm fine, and his voice gets higher and higher and higher every time he says it. You're convincing yourself, and you're trying so hard to convince everyone around you that you're fine. And everyone can clearly see you're not fine, but you're trying. It's like the gif with the dog in the kitchen that's on fire, and he's just sipping his coffee. He's like, this is fine. Everything's fine. I think a lot of us feel that way. Maybe that you don't really resonate with that. You're like, no, I don't really try to convince myself I'm fine. Maybe you resonate with a different Avenger who doesn't hide his anger. You know where this is going, right? Check out this scene, and maybe you relate more to someone in this movie.
He's gonna need us to...
So, this all seems horrible.
I've seen worse.
Sorry.
No, we could use a little worse.
Stark, we got him.
Banner?
Just like you said.
Then tell him to suit up. I'm bringing the party to you.
I don't see how that's a party.
Dr. Banner. Now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry.
So if you're being really honest with yourself and you're brave, show of hands, who in here relates a little more to the Hulk and how you handle stress? Yes, I appreciate the honesty. You walk into a room and you say, this looks horrible, everything's terrible, this is awful, not the best outlook on life, and then you let anger be your guide as you go through the stress. Now, here's the thing about Wanda's reaction and Hulk's reaction. Neither of them are bad, and neither of them are better than the other. I'm not trying to make that point. They're actually, besides the whole like superhero green monster thing, they're actually pretty normal. I mean, we've all reacted to stress like Wanda, where we just get a little apathetic. And we, like I said, we use denial. We try to convince ourselves that we're fine, everything's fine. We also have reacted to stress like Hulk, where we just get really mad. And we get pretty negative about things. We don't have the best outlook. We don't have the best attitude about it. But that's the thing about stress. You see, I think stress kind of brings out the worst in us sometimes. We all know this to be true, that something stressful can take a really good day and make it a terrible day in literal minutes. I mean, you're just walking through your day and you're like, everything's great, and then all of a sudden, it's the worst day ever. Stress can cause anxiety. It can cause feelings of worry. It can really impact your sleep. I mean, stress can ruin days, weeks, maybe months. Stress can take a toll on the body as well. Stress is a huge deal. But I think besides the stress itself, I think there's something worse than just stress, and that is when you're not only feeling stress, but you're feeling alone. When these two things combine, stress and loneliness, I have a hard time thinking of a worse matching, a worse pair of feelings to go through. Because when you're stressed about something and you're feeling lonely in it, you draw away from your community, you isolate yourself, and the stress almost becomes secretive, doesn't it? It's like, I don't want to tell anyone about it, so it's just this thing you're carrying and you're holding alone. And that's really exhausting, and it can be really heavy. And so I think there's a few reasons why we don't talk about our stress. And when I say we don't talk about it, the people I'm talking about are, we don't talk about it to our trusted people in our lives. That is hopefully your parents. That's maybe a best friend. Maybe it's your sibling. It's a small group leader. Maybe you see a counselor. There's someone in your life who you know is trustworthy, and you decide to not open up to them about it. And I think we don't do it for a few reasons. The first one is we might get emotional if we talk about it. And we don't want to do that. I mean, I remember feeling that when my mom would pick me up from school, middle school or high school, and I would have like a bad day, and I'd get in the car and she would say, "Lauren, what's wrong? Is everything okay?" And I could feel the tears welling up, you know? And I knew in that moment I had a choice. I could either say, "No, I'm not okay. Things aren't okay." And I know that once I start crying, it's going to be really hard to stop. Or I could lie, and I could say, "No, everything's fine. It's fine. I'm fine." And I try to stuff that emotion down. I stuff the stress down, and I try to not worry about it. And maybe you're not a crier, but maybe it's anger. You can feel like your blood boiling, or you have a short fuse for the day. You don't have any patience with the people around you. You're not laughing as much as you normally do. There's something going on that is telling people around you, hey, they're not okay. And so they ask. And you decide to not be honest. And for some reason, and this is so silly and so ridiculous, we think it's weak to show emotions. It's not. It's actually a strength to be honest and to be vulnerable and to show emotions, but we think that if we show emotions, people will think we're weak. And we don't want people to think that. Another reason why I think we don't tell people about our stress is because we might feel guilt about a decision we made that caused us the stress in the first place. An example of this would be maybe you said something really mean about a friend, and it got back to that friend, and you know that friend knows about it, and they're mad at you because you did something wrong. You messed up, and you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to acknowledge it because, it might make things awkward. You don't want to say anything about it because they'll forget about it, right? No, they won't. We never forget the mean stuff people say, unfortunately. But we hope, just give it a few days, they'll forget, it'll be fine. But you're carrying the stress around from it, and you go home and your dad can tell, and he's like, hey, what's wrong? And you don't want to tell him what's wrong because you'll have to admit to what you did in the first place. Or even worse, you lie about it, and now you have more stress because now you're trying to maintain a lie about what happened. And so instead of doing any of that, we don't say anything at all. And the last reason why I think we may not talk about our stress is because we want to appear like we have it all together. But does anyone have it all together? No. I turn 28 next month, and listen, in middle school, I was like, golly, by 25, I'll have it together. No. Spoiler, she does not have it together. I don't really have plans to have it together anymore. It seems exhausting. So I'm just running with the not having it together thing. But no one has it together. Everyone's figuring it out as they go. We're all taking it day by day. But we think, oh, I can't tell them what's really going on because they seem like they have it all together. They seem like it's perfect. And so I have to act like I have it all together. The people, when I'm going through something, the people I go to are the people who don't pretend they have it all together. I go to the people who are honest about what's going on in their lives because I feel safe, like they can relate to me. And so when we pretend like we have it all together, it causes people around us to not want to be honest with us because they think they can't relate to us. When it's all just made up anyway. No one has it together. And so we worry that people will think we're not perfect, and so we don't say anything at all. And all these reasons lead to us not opening up about our stress, which then in turn creates a longer process to actually deal with the situation that we're facing. It takes us longer to work through it. It takes us longer to get to the other side, all because we're keeping it so close and we're not letting anyone in. And so last week, Heath talked about Nehemiah and how Nehemiah felt the call on his life, felt like God was leading him to go rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, which was a massive undertaking. And he felt pressure from the king, from himself, from the people around him. And so he gets to Jerusalem, he starts working on these walls, and it would have been so easy, I think, for Nehemiah to turn down any help out of pride. I think it would have been really easy for Nehemiah to say, I don't want anyone's help because I want to do this on my own. So at the end of the day, at the end of this project, I can say, I did it. I fixed the walls all by myself, and I didn't need any help. But what actually happens is people start showing up and they offer to help Nehemiah, and he becomes a project manager, really. And he has all these people helping him. And I think it's so powerful, such a simple story, but he accepted the help. And I think that's something that we can learn from Nehemiah is it's so important to accept help from others. It reminds me of this verse, Proverbs 27:17, that says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. To sharpen iron, you have to use iron. I've never done this before. I watched a YouTube video, though. It seemed legit. But you have to sharpen iron on iron. That's your science lesson for the day. That's all I have to offer you. But in the same way, we should be sharpening one another. What does that mean? Well, we should be helping each other become the best versions of ourselves. We should be helping each other become a healthier version of us, a stronger version. We should be helping each other. We should be carrying each other's burdens. And you see, our natural instinct, what we want to do is we want to hold everything in. And maybe it's pride. And maybe it's fear. Maybe we don't want to tell people what's going on because we're scared that they'll think differently of us, and so we don't. And that actually hurts us in the long run. See, when pressure grows, don't hesitate to share the weight. I know you want to, but don't. And maybe you're sitting in here and you're thinking, yeah, I'm pretty stressed because last week I had a test and I didn't study for it. I told my parents I studied for it and I failed, and eventually they're going to find out. And I'm going to have to admit that I lied and that I didn't study, and that is stressful. Or maybe on the way here, you called your sibling a name that you shouldn't have said, and you feel bad about it, but you don't want to apologize for it. They deserved it, and you don't want to acknowledge it. It'll make things awkward. So you're just not going to say anything, but you're stressed about it. Or maybe you're sitting here and you're thinking, Lauren, I am carrying something so heavy and way worse than a failed test or a fight with my sibling. And I don't want to say anything about it. And if you hear anything today, please hear me say that there is nothing you could say to your small group leaders that would cause them to love you any less or would scare them. They are here for you, and your small group as a whole should be one of the safest spaces for you. And if it's not, talk to your leader. But your leaders are trustworthy people who love you and want what's best for you and are here for you. And if you are struggling, please tell someone. Today, please tell someone this week. And here's the thing, you're going to go into transit weekend this weekend, and you're going to spend a lot of time with your small group. And there's a chance that you might hear something really heavy in your small group that someone's dealing with. And my hope is, my challenge for you, is to be a safe space for that person, to help them, to carry each other's burdens, because we are not designed to carry this by ourselves. God didn't create us to carry all this by ourselves. He created us to be a part of community and to help each other. And guys, this life is really hard. There's a lot of heavy stuff we have to carry. There's a lot of stuff we're going to go through that we are not designed to handle by ourselves. So please don't try to let someone in. And you know who that trusted person is. So please just tell them. And we can come alongside together. And if someone comes to you and opens up to you about something going on in their life, be the friend who's going to help them out. Help them carry it. Check in with them. Be there for them. We were designed for community. We're designed to carry each other's burdens. And I think it's safe to say that all of us in here want our small groups to be a safe space for that. So you're going to head to small group in just a second, and you have some questions about today, and that's fine. But I really want you to talk about going into transit weekend. What's the kind of environment you want to create in your group? How can you make sure to be a safe space? How can you help each other with what you're dealing with? But before you go to group, I would love to pray for you. Father, thank you so much for transit, for this day together, God. We're just so grateful for a place where we can come to learn more about you, to grow in our relationship with you, God, to have community that reflects your goodness, Father. We're just so grateful. And I just pray for every single small group. And as they enter into this weekend, God, I just pray that you give everyone the courage to be honest about what they're going through, and that they are greeted with a safe and loving space to work through it. So, Father, I thank you for our leaders. I thank you for every single student who is in this room. God, we love you. We're grateful for you, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.